Hey lovely, and welcome to lesson 3, which is all about how the brain is responding to sleep. And this is super important for you to have a good grasp on, because essentially if you have a good understanding of what the brain is actually doing, then we obviously have a good aim for a long-term outcome. So in this diagram, the very first thing that you probably saw was this little red part here, right? So essentially this part is actually called the amygdala, right? Now, you're going to hear me talk about the amygdala a lot. The amygdala is the part of the brain that manages risk in the body and in the environment, okay? Obviously, your child does not have an environmental risk when they are at home with you. They are completely safe in their environment at home with you, but they can have a risk in their body, right? Now, the thing about the amygdala is it's actually quite primitive in its response. It doesn't actually understand the level of risk, okay? So can't understand level of risk. Okay, so essentially it can't understand the level of risk. However, it certainly can say that there is a risk. The problem is it can't say the risk is mild, moderate, or severe. It is literally on or off, right? And that means that it's then subsequently responding to low level risk the same way it's responding to high level risk, right? And this is why your little person is a normal, healthy child, right? With a sleep problem, okay? So I know that your child isn't sick, but the amygdala also is not happy with what's going on, right? So the amygdala isn't going to stop responding to the sleep problem, okay, until it's actually gone. So that's why it's really, really important that we actually work with the brain, right? We want to work with the brain and we don't want to work against it, because if we're going to work against the brain, this essentially is sleep training. So sleep training. What is it? So essentially sleep training is actually asking the brain to stop responding to the risk, even though it's still there, right? So I want you to imagine it's just like brushing your teeth while you're eating an Oreo. You're not going to get clean teeth. We're not going to get good sleep here, right? So essentially what we need to do is we need to actually listen to the amygdala. What is it telling us? Okay, when we start to listen to the amygdala's response and we start to understand what it's actually telling us via investigating the symptoms, right? So when we do that, we can investigate the symptoms, and essentially what then happens is then we can actually then stop the amygdala from responding to the risk, and then we can have quality sleep. Which is awesome, right? So that's pretty much what you need to sort of understand about what the brain is then responding to when it comes to sleep, right? This is the actual response. And then what happens is the amygdala will have a flow-on effect as well, because the amygdala A is pretty smart. It actually then will start to correlate the risk itself with the events surrounding the list, right? And what I mean by that are things like your wind down activities, like things like turning the lights off, putting your sleeping bag on, your comfort toy, reading, like anything that you're doing in your wind down routine might trigger this event, might then trigger the amygdala as well. Okay, then essentially the other part of that is then once we have this correlation between the actual risk itself, the events that happen around the risk, and then the response to the risk, the amygdala is then looking for a safe condition. right? So this is actually really important to understand, because the safe condition is usually you. It might be that you are bed sharing. It might be that you are breastfeeding to sleep. It might be that you are padding, that you are rocking, that you are on a football, in a carrier, putting them in the car. Like whatever it is that you have to do to actually make sleep work is your safe condition for the brain to actually go through that, right? And look, obviously I'm pretty keen on the idea of a no sleep training plan, and you already know that. However, this is the thing. Even if you want your child to do something different to what you're doing right now, there is absolutely no gentle way to actually get that going without actually managing this risk response first, okay? When we manage this first, then the brain is going to be less likely to be latching on to this safe condition, okay? And that is then when we're going to be able to move on to something a little bit more manageable, okay? Okay. All right, awesome. Thanks for joining me for this video, and I hope you've got a really good understanding of the risk response and how that works and why we need to work with the brain now. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.